they didn't focus a lot on solutions, or the only solution they provided was to go vegan, which, like we already said, I don't have anything against going vegan. I personally have not made that choice for myself. I'm pretty much a vegetarian other than like sustainable options. But
Yeah.
I think it's unrealistic to expect every person that watches a documentary to go vegan.
Yeah.
Not to say that that maybe isn't the best answer, because I'm sure it is. However, I think that it almost becomes ineffective to some degree because people assume that, oh, well, I'm not willing to go 100% vegan, so I'm not going to do anything differently.
Yeah, well, I think that was one thing in Cowspiracy is I think he even brought up like the go meatless one day thing and kind of like debunked it. Not debunked it, but was like, that's not enough. That was my thing where I was like, provide that solution. Yes, like I don't eat seafood. I haven't for years. I just got vegan sushi that I ate.
Right.
But then provide like the steps for the other two solutions they gave. And people were like, they didn't have time. It was like they had time to put a slide at the end to go to websites. That is not an excuse. They could have done that.
Yeah. So I think that's, other than the fact that they really didn't talk to anyone that like does fisheries science, or at least they did, but not about fisheries science.
Yeah, they talked to like the professors who work in fisheries, but it was like the subsidies portion, which people in fisheries agree subsidies are a problem, which is also why they're like, we don't like your movie, but we agree that's a problem. Why didn't we talk about how the audience can help get rid of subsidies?
Yeah, so I think that's more kind of the struggle, is that, and we talked about this when we previously recorded, which you guys will see here in a second, but we talk about how there's not a lot of time given to solutions, or just really
would have been a cool series.
Yeah, or just really any solution other than becoming vegan. And we already touched on this again in what you'll hear in a second, but there are sustainable forms of fishing that they don't address, and they also don't address like indigenous fishing practices and things like that most of the time are extremely sustainable, but that maybe aren't sort of the like picture perfect version of fishing or whatever that they're trying to portray.
Yeah. Well, and one thing is like a lot of people have been saying, well, the movie wasn't meant for these other countries that rely on fishing. It's meant for like the Western world. But I think people forget that there are indigenous people that live in the Western world. Like in Hawaii, there are like Native Hawaiians who still like fish is a part of your culture. It's not like, so I'm sure there are lots of like Native Hawaiians who are going to like give up seafood, don't eat seafood, but it's still a part of Hawaiian culture.
Right. And I
like
think
those fish ponds and all that kind of stuff.
The reality is too, is that majority of, I'm not an indigenous person, so I can't speak obviously to it on experience, but those people that I have met are some of the most sustainable fishers on the planet, it seems like. So
on top of
it's one of those things where there was a lot that they could have talked about, but they didn't, because it wasn't pushing that vegan agenda, which is fine. But I think as someone that watches it, it's sort of your responsibility, like, oh, that's cool. I don't really want to be a vegan, but there are things you can do. So it's finding those sort of like intermediate solutions that can allow for that.
Or at least like just by providing like actions for those other two, that if the people who watched it and are turned off by the plant-based message could at least do something else. And at least on their website, that was my thing. I like their website. They only like they show the 3 solutions, and the only like they have a hyperlink to a food subscription plan they're selling, but they don't have anything more about the other 2 solutions, which I was kind of like, you have a whole website, like, come on.
Yeah,
come on.
For sure. So yeah, so there's lots of things obviously that were maybe not exactly the best.
It's not a picture perfect documentary.
No, it's
to be fair, most are not.